Welcome, everybody. Thanks for your patience. If you were in the waiting room for a moment, we are having momentary technology things. Oh, yeah. I don't know if Sarah's going to be able to join. She said she's not allowed in Alice's. Well, we're going to keep going, Alice. Yeah.
All right.
All
Yes.
right. Welcome, everybody. Hold on. Let me text her again. Yeah.
So as Meg is doing that, I will just give a little bit of the introduction. We're trying to get Sarah on our team in here with us today.
This is her first webinar, I think. So,
Sarah
all right.
who talks to all of our clients, but doesn't really have to do a lot of this like
Doesn't
webinar.
have to do this stuff. So, hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We are glad that you're with us, whether you're here with us live in the Zoom room or you are watching this on demand. And if you are here with us live, as we walk through this, just casual chat really is what these Prasada talks are. If you've got questions, comments, anything you'd like to add, please use the chat feature and we'll stay in contact like that. So in case we haven't met, I am Meg Townsend. I'm the Director of Program Development and Whole Being Guide with Prasada. And I am joined today by at least Alice. Alice, tell us just a little bit about you.
Hi. I'm Alice Dommert. I am founder and CEO of Prasada. And I'm really glad to be here. There have been quite a few things going on these last couple of months, and we wanted to talk about our theme for next month, but we're still in this month because it is coming up on September.
I know we're in this like sort of middle moment. So we've taken August, we've been talking a lot about create has been our theme. And when we move into September, our theme is strengths. And so Alice, a brilliant digester and combiner of things, and also acknowledging where we are in this season, wanted to really talk about how we can create a plan to avoid this frenzied energy of fall. And if you're here with us live, do you experience that? Do you notice? What do you notice during this transitional time of year? Whether it's outside of you or inside of you. And this is really this interesting transition period where we're moving from maybe a more playful or spacious feeling of summer into a routine of fall, but also kind of a frenzy of fall as well. This is a time of year associated with a lot of movement, a lot of momentum, and we see that in nature. Um, the squirrels and all the creatures are harvesting a lot of stuff and storing up their nuts to get through the winter. We see that if you garden, this is the time of year where all your hard work is paying off in the bounty of harvest, hopefully, and you're harvesting things. There's also just a lot of sort of movement and momentum. I was actually in CVS the other day, Alice, and I saw school supplies, right? Because a lot of people are going back to school, whether you have kids that are going back to school or you yourself are going back to school in some way, shape, or form. But then there was also Halloween supplies and Thanksgiving things. And it's like all the rest of the year is just dumped right in the same aisle. And there's less presence, it feels like. And so we really notice that and try to maybe slow down a little bit, take some breaths and just do the opposite, right? So that we don't get carried away. Yeah, because that momentum can really cause us to feel swept up or away. So it's really advisable to create some routines, some sort of plan that supports you. What are people saying in the chat? Somebody's busy at work, right? There's a new school year. So I know some of you work in schools as well. You're excited for the craft fairs. Awesome. Yeah, there's less light that can affect, our energy and our spirit sometimes. Some people do feel some new energy, right? Because everything's cooling down as well. And there's like, you can feel it in the air. I felt that this morning when I was biking to the gym. It felt a little cooler, and I was like, oh, it's arriving. So Alice, what do you notice in fall within yourself or in different organizations that we work for?
Yeah, it's interesting because especially in the Philadelphia area, there are so many schools, there's so many universities and colleges, and so even if you don't have kids kind of going back to school or you're not going back to school, there's still definitely the patterns change, the traffic patterns change, the energy changes. Everybody kind of has that. And when we were talking a little earlier this morning, as you were saying earlier, Meg, you know, in sort of ancient cultures, you had to start working this time of year to prepare because you had to make sure that you had enough food to actually get you through the winter. So it's one of these things that we feel this sort of surge, the harvest of what are we going to be doing to prepare so that we can actually make it all the way through. My kids are now, they actually both left. One was driving to Bar Harbor, Maine this morning, and the other one was going back to Oregon. So they are adults in their lives at this point. But September was always the hardest month because we go from this sort of lazy days of August. A lot of times in this area, people are going to the shore, taking vacation. And then suddenly we are just, the calendar changes and we have this routine. And there's so many different activities, and also they're new. They're new activities. I was talking to a friend the other day who's a teacher, and I said, "Is this the second year at your new school?" And she said, "Yes, thank goodness," because and we were saying about how hard it is for people when they're at a new school, whether you're a kid or a teacher. But for all of us, that September routine is new. You're going to have new subjects. Your kids are going to be in different activities. And so we somehow have this expectation because of our technology that it's just like turning on your phone and suddenly it's fully functioning, going from like it wasn't on to it's on. And that's the expectation that we have for ourselves and our families, and that we're just going to suddenly be able to adapt to this new pace. And this word adapting is something that I've really thought a lot about because we talk about change, and change is when you have something that goes from one thing to the other. Definitely the seasons are changing, but adapting is when we go from one thing, and humans, we need time to adapt. I know in our family, my mother would always say that September's chaos becomes October's routine. And I
Hmm.
always love that because by October, most of us do feel like we've kind of settled in. We have gotten all the right notebooks. We have, we've gotten a bit into the rhythm of things. But it's that month of September that can be really, really challenging for all of us. Um, I think the plan, and when we think about like what habits and plans we have to put in place to execute those tasks, I think this is another thing, and we talk a lot about this. I think it's Sarah coming in. Um,
Hey, keep going. I'll figure out.
yes. So we talk about, having a plan, and we talk about habits. There she is. Welcome, welcome, Sarah. We're just talking about, as we talk about the plan and getting a plan in place for September, we have this idea in our culture that we're going to be able to optimize everything. We're going to be able to have this perfect schedule, and we're going to have a perfect routine that right after dinner, we're going to make all the lunches, and we're going to get that done in time for 8 o'clock bedtime. And a lot of times it's not going, no matter how organized you are. In my family, there were a lot of Excel spreadsheets, and no matter how organized you are, even those of us who are super duper organized, there's still going to be an adaptation period, and there's still going to be things that fall off the table. And there's still going to be a lot of anxiety, even if you're not a person who identifies with having anxiety. There's still going to be moments where it's just overwhelming. September is overwhelming.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sarah, you've got your youngest going off to kindergarten, so you guys
No,
have a
well,
little
no, first grade. So now
oh,
he's full day.
full day. That's right. That's
Yes.
right. So what's it like? And you were talking a little earlier about how you have some added things that happen in September that make life a little bit more busy at your household.
Yeah, so when we were talking about this conversation and having it today, it got me thinking that, fall is really my favorite time of the year, from just the way it smells, the way it feels outside. And then on top of that, a lot of really amazing things happened to me in the fall. I got married in the fall about 13 years ago. I had both of my babies in the fall in September. And so it's this time of year that I really look forward to. And, there's other family members' birthdays. It's just one thing after the other. And while I want to look forward to it, it starts to become like overwhelming and it creeps up on me. Towards the end of the summer, I start feeling that racing frenzy like we're talking about, because now I'm in, okay, we got to plan birthday parties and I got to make sure I have gifts set for everybody else and food and all. And they're starting school. So a couple of things that over the last few years that I feel like I've relied on is some of my strengths, which I didn't know I was doing until just recently. So, something like we say, humor is something that gets me through on a daily basis. I will be that person that's always going to try to find the light in the darkest hole possible. But the thing that I think is interesting is with my kids is now I'm starting to strength spot with them, even when things are stressful. So for example, my youngest, he's too young. He hasn't taken the survey yet, but I'd like to think that probably one of his strongest strengths is curiosity. So he always finds a way to take things apart. And when we are rushing around and doing things, or I've just purchased all brand new school supplies and everything is taken apart because he's got to see how it works, my initial reaction is like, my head's going to explode. Like, we just did all that. But being able to know that that's something that's driving him to want to figure out or see how things work has helped those conversations where it's like, hey, buddy, I know you're really curious about this right now, and that's a really good thing to be, but talk to me about it. Ask me questions. We don't have to tear everything apart or break it to see how it works. So, like, the teaching moments of the strength spotting has definitely helped me as a parent. And then on, the flip side of it with my husband, knowing some of his strengths are actually some of my greatest weaknesses on the list. So, for example, perseverance is one of my lowest strengths. Sometimes I get really stressed out, I'll shut down, and it's hard for me to see the task all the way through. He happens to be able to bulldoze through any situation and he pushes me through. So something as simple as, helping getting the laundry done or the dishes or cooking or committing to something we said we were going to do, but I don't feel like doing it. He's the one there pushing me. And I do rely on him for that. So, from the perspective of having too many things going on and having a family, I've just found that it's really helpful to try to see my other family members in my unit, what makes them tick, because I'm relying on them to help me and carry me through it because there's a lot to do. And it should, we should still have the appreciation of the beauty of fall as well. And when I rely on them, I feel like I get to appreciate it more and I have that gratitude. So that seems to help me quite a bit.
You're hearing Sarah say lots of different things about strengths. So if you're like, what is this strength spotting? This is sort of spoiler alert of you'll learn more about it in September, where we really talk about in our Prasada Talks and in a special workshop Alice is doing more about you'll just dive deeper into your own strengths and just more about the vocabulary of those. So just kind of listen and absorb if you're like, what is this strength spotting? What is this appreciation of beauty and excellence? We've kind of had this thread that we'll continue to, because this is one of our biggest programs that we do with Prasada with different companies. And so yes, keep absorbing this language. And Sarah, you said that I loved how you kind of started to paint the picture of your family as a team, right? And we can take it into the workplace as well, right?
Yeah.
Alice, do you want to talk a little bit about like how we do this and how you've, created a team and a culture here at Prasada that really leverages our strengths? Yeah. And that kind of relates to this time of year as well.
There are a couple of different assessments, and people, if you've been in the workplace, you've probably done one of those types of strengths assessments. This is actually called VIA character strengths, and it's virtues in action, and it's actually a foundation of positive psychology. And so as I was learning about positive psychology over the years and really looking at this identification of what sometimes we call them your superpowers, and they're the things that you innately do naturally, and they give you energy. And a lot of times you don't actually think of them as a skill set or as a superpower because they come so easily to you and you think that everybody can do that. And so what the assessment is it's actually a free assessment. And what we have been doing is we, as a team, took this assessment and we started sharing with each other what our strengths were. Because one of the things that's really happening within workplaces is people are starting to recognize that work should be a place where we are, yes, definitely doing our job, we're fulfilling our mission, but also the connections and relationships that we have at work are actually a huge element about why we end up staying at a place. And there's a great stay firms versus go firms. Thomson Reuters did a study, but these connections that we have with each other, and I like to talk about it as this interdependency, because in any moment, on our team, we know that, somebody's going to probably be going through at any time. We have a 4-person core team and a bigger team. At any point in time, somebody's pet is going to be sick, their child is going to be sick, they're going to be having some extenuating circumstance, they're going to be moving. They're not all like tragic life experiences, but just like life goes on. Yeah. And so as we know each other's strengths and as we become more interdependent, we also build a level of trust with each other. Trust is cited as one of the most important factors within a workplace. And so what does that look like? What does that look like, and how do you kind of apply that even in September? Trust looks like the capacity to say in a meeting and have time in a check-in meeting and say, how's everybody doing? What's going on? How are you feeling today? And to be able to say, you know what, today, Meg, when your mom was ill, you really were sharing with us, we're waiting to hear on some news today. I'm going to be available, but if I'm not available, I'll be on that call and I'm just a little bit anxious. And so sometimes we don't want to share those kinds of what we consider more personal on the other side with each other. But yet we were able to say, oh, wow, we're thinking about you. I hope you get the good news. And she was able to feel supported. And also knowing that we are all real humans. And you also have talked about how you kind of used your strengths during that time. So I think the plan that when we were talking about this idea, the plan for September is not something else that we add on our list to do.
Yes, I was thinking about that before we started. I was like, we don't need more like spreadsheets and things to do. And if you came here hoping for that, there's an invitation of different actions to take, but it's not like craft your whole new life this fall, because it's too much.
For many years, I thought if I just like kept my calendar better, if I color coded my calendar, I would like somehow like make it all flow a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So I think our invitation for the plan is, how do we all know that September is like getting on a bucking bronco. So how can we incorporate time in for us to just check in and say like, okay, how's it going? Because we know that we will adapt. We know September's chaos will become October's routine. We're all in this. It's happening for all of us. So how are we able to just take those moments and be like, how's everybody doing? And somebody can say, oh my gosh, I can't even believe this or that. And oftentimes just having someone hear, oh my gosh, I'm feeling really overwhelmed. Yeah, I'm feeling overwhelmed also. Because what I found is when I got into my little super optimized task list bubble, I got really disconnected. And then it felt like I was just the only person running in the hamster wheel. And it just became even more overwhelming because of that disconnection. So what might that look like, in the workplace? What are some ways that we do that, Meg, in our teams?
Well, before like at the start of every meeting, our weekly meeting, and even our smaller different team meetings, we always check in at the very beginning just to kind of locate. And that's so valuable too, because then no one has this opportunity to, like, say I come into a meeting and I'm really cranky, but we didn't do a check-in. And then like halfway through, that crankiness is just coming through and people are like upset. It creates just a lot of unnecessary, story creating amongst the team, or hurt feelings or stuff. Whereas if I just say at the very beginning, then Sarah might know, oh, Meg's feeling a little edgy and she said that a little edgy. That's her stuff, right? Not like, what did I do wrong or anything? So it just creates healthy relationships. And also it just gives that, as you said, like space for that to be without any sense of judgment. And that's really all like the tenets of mindfulness. It's like being aware in the present moment without judgment. Here's how I'm feeling. Nobody's judging. we'll keep on going on, but we do, that's one of the threads that we continue to, and one of the practices that's just a part of our routine agenda, I think, right, Sarah? Isn't it the beginning of the?
Yeah, every time. Yep. It's something too that, hearing from the client side, and I don't know if this was said before I hopped on, but dealing directly with the clients as part of my role with Prasada, I just hear a lot from them that their employees, burn out. That's all I hear is burnout. And rightly so, because I think a lot of people are in that space right now. But what I found is that someone who myself has also experienced burnout and can get back there very quickly if I'm not mindful of it. I find what's really fun about knowing our best characteristics and our strongest strengths is the fact that I don't need to learn anything new to do. Like we said, we don't need anything extra to add to the list. And the one thing that I find so powerful about using character strengths as a whole being practice is that it's something that is already there, waiting for me to tap into. I don't need to learn how to do it. It's not going to take 30 minutes a week. I just need to learn which ones they are and be ready when they want to come to the surface and know, hey, this is going to energize me. This is going to make me feel better. Something like love of learning. That's another top strength that energizes me. So I know when I'm kind of feeling like I'm in this place with work and a lot of things going on, sometimes I just need to sit down and read articles. I'll be that person on the team. I mean, you guys get them all the time. I'm blasting articles left and right. Sometimes that's because I need a break to find that space again. And I love to learn. So, and it energizes me. Like Alice said, like that's what they do. So I just love, being able to share that with our clients and know that we have these tools to offer them, which I know we're going to get into more in September to teach people more about what they are. But it's really exciting stuff. So,
Yeah, I just wanted to share the one story. So we were working with a social service agency, and as they were learning their strengths, some of them were like, love, perseverance, hope. Like, how's this really going to help me? And then we asked them, because this was an organization that helped individuals and families who had intellectual disabilities. And so we asked them, what were the most meaningful experiences that you've had with some of the individuals or families you've worked with? And they were really feeling frustrated because they didn't have all the resources. So they weren't able to get every family a handicap ramp. And they were seeing their jobs as like always falling short because they weren't able to deliver some particular task or service. When we asked them what was the most meaningful experience, many of them said they kind of had this pause. I remember seeing somebody on Zoom, and you could just tell she was like, I gave them hope. I gave them hope about what were the possibilities, and kept like used my humor and used my love, and that was the offering that made the
mm,
difference in that relationship. So I think that as we look at strengths in September, as we look at what are the things that you do really well, and how can you pause with your people? And Meg, I'd love to have, I know we've just got a couple more minutes, but you talked about, checking in with our team. That's pretty easy. We've got a structure. Your family maybe gets together for dinner. But can you talk a little bit about what you were saying earlier about just checking in with others?
Yeah, just remembering your friends, right? And that checking in with them, I think, is a really important thing. And that's what I've been making a conscious effort to do these past few months, just to kind of support
your
my,
found family, you said.
yeah, your found family, right? And it's, maybe I don't work with my closest friends. I don't see them. So it takes effort. And when we get caught up in the busyness, right? Sometimes you might forget and you're like, oh, that friendship's going to be there. I've been friends with this person for 20 years. They'll be there, but they still need a support. And something as simple as I just sent a text message to a friend today she's a teacher. So she started school this week and she just moved a lot of stuff. And I just said, how are you doing? That was it. And it gives her a little space to just say, here's how I'm doing. And that somebody's caring for her. So
Hmm.
whether your friends don't have partners, do have partners, are also as busy or not, like, just remembering to in some way, shape, or form connect can support those relationships and thriving, and also just support those people feeling held in their own, so we're not all in our own bubbles all the time. I wanted to say too, just before I put a link in the chat, if you are interested in learning your strengths, I did create a survey invite. If you clicked it as soon as I put it in, re-click it because I accidentally made it a child. There's a youth survey, which is great for kids, but I don't want y'all to take the youth survey. So I hit it to adult. So click that and you can take your strength survey, and then you'll get that, and you can bring that to some of our Prasada Talks and the program Alice has as we move through the next month together and just explore more about what those are all about. Alice, any last words before we send
No,
everyone
I
their
think to
way?
summarize it, like let's just keep checking in with each other and focus. I mean, one of the things that resilient people do is they focus. They know that hard things happen, but they also focus on what's working. So as you're checking in with people, just acknowledging like what is working, or where's the little teeny place that you have adapted in this moment, and you'll get there. Thank you, Mary Dahmer. Gotta have a shout out for my mom for September's
Oh,
September's chaos becomes October's routine. So thank you so much for joining us. Stay tuned. We're going to be really deep diving into all these strengths in September, writing about it in the blog posts, and have a couple of different events. So definitely check that out on our website. So thank you, ladies, both so much.
Thank you. Thank you all so
Thank
much.
you.
Wonderful rest of your week, and we'll see you again soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.